Please be advised we are speaking in our own individual capacities and not representing any companies we may work for.
We are not your lawyers, and any information given during this podcast does not constitute as legal advice and is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to Girls Gone Legal, guys. As you can see today, we are missing Katie. Unfortunately, she is filming a movie role and production got pushed back a little bit, so we are missing her today, but she will be back next time. In her place, we have Sophia Stefanou, one of my best friends from law school, and I'll give a quick introduction on her. So Sophia Stefanou is a New York barred attorney. Her practice is focused on maritime, residential, and commercial real estate transactions. She's a graduate from NYU and NYLS, lots of NYs. She's a native New Yorker. And Sophia's fluent in Greek, which I love.
And we also have a Greek guest today.
And we have a Greek guest today, which we will introduce soon. And she can often be spotted holding an iced espresso. So welcome, Sophia. Thank you for being our honorary co-host today. We are so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, guys, I want to welcome our first guest of season 3 today. We are so excited to have her. Her name is Irene. She's an executive legal recruiter at Macmel, where she specializes in facilitating attorneys' lateral moves with an emphasis on the New York and New Jersey markets. A former associate at a leading firm in New Jersey, Irene has a deep understanding of both the attorney experience and law firms' own hiring process and considerations. Having practiced in various sectors of the law, Irene knows the value of the right fit for a particular role and uses her knowledge and experience to ensure long-term success for both law firms and candidates. Irene received her JD from Seton Hall University School of Law and lives in New Jersey. So let's welcome Irene. Welcome, Irene. We were so excited to have you.
Welcome, Irene.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Was it a long trip into the city today?
Not too bad. Just a train ride, so about an hour.
The traffic was so bad for me coming in. I don't know why.
It's UN week.
Yes.
In the city.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we're gridlocked. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's what the news calls it, gridlock.
Gotcha. Because I left my apartment, I Ubered in here, and I was like, it's going to take me like 45 minutes when it could usually take me 20. Yeah. And you were like, oh no, I'm sitting here for so long.
Well, I'm lucky I came from Phi Dai, and that's not like where all the traffic is right now.
Yeah, so that was good. But yeah, so we're really excited to be here today and to have a legal recruiter. This is our first legal recruiter on Girls Gone Legal. And I think for pre-law students, law students, even people that pass the bar and are looking for jobs, legal recruiting is so, so important. I feel like it's not talked about enough. So this is your episode today. If you don't know what it is, if you want to learn more about it, listen in. And yeah, let's get started. So you started your career practicing law. What motivated your transition into legal recruiting?
Sure. So yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that. It wasn't anything specific. I didn't like wake up one day and say like, oh, I think I want to become a legal recruiter.
Right.
But you as a practicing attorney, I'm sure sometimes we'll get emails or LinkedIn messages from recruiters. And sometimes maybe you'll entertain them. Sometimes maybe you won't. Yeah. So I had somebody in my inbox one day. I noticed that his bio said attorney turned legal recruiter. I checked him out on LinkedIn. I noticed that he was in big law, like at a really prestigious firm. And I'm like, I wonder what motivated this guy to transition from the practice of law into recruiting. So long story short, we scheduled a call to talk about some of the roles that he was seeing at the time. Right. And during the call, I started asking him some questions like, how did you decide to make the switch? He told me a little bit about, the similarities, the differences, his day-to-day as an associate compared to his day-to-day as a recruiter. And I really liked the sound of what he had to say. And, ironically, he was like, well, if you're interested, my agency's actually interviewing. I could set you up with an interview. And I said, why not? So I took a chance. It was definitely a leap of faith, going from a firm with a salary to a recruiting role, which is commissions-based. I don't know if you guys know that.
Right.
But it ended up being a great fit from the start, and I haven't looked back. So
That's amazing. So how long have you been in legal recruiting?
So it'll actually be a year in December. So coming up
Okay.
on a year soon, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's so
you.
exciting. And, you go into a firm, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to do attorney work. And then, you switch over. That's nice that you're really happy where you are and that you're doing something different as well, something that makes you happy.
And it's
so.
still in like the legal space, so it's not like you did a complete pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we
100%.
call it legal adjacent.
Right.
And a lot of times we're, doing a lot of legal work. There's contracts that we enter into with firms. So a lot of the time, like we're reviewing and negotiating contracts. Additionally, I'm talking to attorneys all day. So it's not like I'm too far removed from the
That
profession.
actually, that's so interesting because I don't even know the answer to this myself. Do you have to be have a JD or be a lawyer to be a legal recruiter, or
That's
is
a
that
good
just
question.
like helpful?
It definitely depends on the agency. I know that my agency, Macmel, the majority of us are attorneys, and those that aren't have held roles in law firms, like in law firm recruiting. I think that it definitely helps to have the JD and or the firm experience because you just sort of speak the language.
Right.
But I don't know if, there are agencies out there that don't require it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that either.
Yeah, because you probably have an upper leg compared to those that don't have that law background. I'm guessing because you understand also from both perspectives right now. You understand when you're in that space of like, oh my God, I want this job. Like, who do I have to speak to? How can I get it? I feel like
Yeah.
everyone goes through that stress.
You've
at some
also
point.
you've been through that as well, when you got your firm job, going through interviewing, meeting people,
Right.
getting the job. What do I want? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
What's my long-term goals? So you're helping other candidates now do that, which is really important because I feel like a lot of people might feel that they're alone in the
Yeah,
process.
for sure.
I know right now, currently, I'm interviewing, and it's been such a process. And I'm interviewing for a bunch of places, even something where I'm like, okay, the key responsibilities I see that are posted, I match all those things. It might not be exactly something I saw myself going
Right.
into, but I'm just so open-minded that you never know what you're going to like. So when you were in firm life and then switched over, you never know what you're going to like and what's going to be
Right.
for you in the future. So
Yeah,
I think that's really
absolutely.
important.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure like you can speak to the fact too that
Yeah.
the interview process, of course, is time consuming and demanding, but also like the application process. I'm sure you're spending like so much time, filling out applications, revising your resume,
Yeah.
things like that. So if and when you get to the point in your career where you can use a recruiter because you're a little bit too junior right now, which is something we can also get into.
Yeah.
We do all of that. Like we help you revise your resume. We will go and spend the time to find the roles like that you are best suited for. We can fill out the application like in the portal. So, attorneys are super busy, that's no secret. So I think that that's something a lot of people don't realize is exactly like how much of the process a recruiter can take off your plate, especially if you're working with the right recruiter.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just nice to kind of have somebody like on your team, like, all right, we're going to help you get a job. You're going to interview. You're going to meet all these
Right.
people, and you're going to go through the process with somebody, like I said, and not going through it alone. Something I
Absolutely.
did want to ask, and I don't know, maybe our audience is wondering the same thing. And I had asked you this on the phone, but I was calling Irene and I said, can you like help me? I'm looking for jobs right now. And we'll talk about being too junior as well. But I said, do I pay you? How does this work? How does like the compensation work?
Yeah, because a lot of people
So-
haven't used a legal
Exactly.
recruiter or they don't know to use
Right.
one.
Yeah, so if you could kind of explain how that works
Yeah.
as well.
Definitely. No, it's such a valid question.
Yeah.
And I did laugh when you asked that on the phone. But no, it's a fair question. Again, like I can't speak for all agencies. I'm sure there are some out there, who maybe are compensated by candidates. But
Yeah.
Macmel has relationships with firms that we recruit for. They'll send us out, say we're looking for XYZ associate. And we have agreements that provides for the firm to compensate us. So anytime a candidate uses our services, it's completely free on the candidate
And
side.
it's like, do these firms, like when they make this deal, is it that they can only use you guys and that they can't recruit on their own? How does that work?
No. So we don't ask for exclusivity either on the firm end or the candidate end. So like if I send you an email about a role and you respond to me, like I will never say to you, oh, if you choose to work with me, please don't work with any other recruiter. What I do ask candidates is to let me know, if they've been actively applying for a while, to provide me with like a list of firms if that's something they can easily do, because if somebody's already been submitted to a firm recently, I can't resubmit them. That again kind of goes into the types of agreements we have with the firms. But yeah, no, the firm is welcome to use as many recruiters as they have relationships with. But I will say, like, the more a firm works with an agency, the more that a relationship can develop. And it's been my experience so far that, like, if I've placed somebody at a certain firm and they've been satisfied with the experience and they liked working with Macmel, then, we'll work with them again and again and again. It's such a relationship business.
I was going to ask, actually, what do you think the benefit is of going through a recruiter versus like trying to do it by yourself? Because
it's a very good question.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to like the time thing, first and foremost, I remember being a law firm associate, and like sometimes I would get home, it'd be 9:00 at night, and like the last thing I would want to do, at that time was open my laptop and look for roles, right? So I think a huge advantage is time. And I think a huge advantage is having somebody on the other end of the phone who maybe has been through the process themselves, who knows the ins and outs of the legal industry. I can't tell you how much more I've learned about the industry since being on the recruitment side. Because like when you're practicing, you kind of like tend to get a little bit pigeonholed into
you narrow into what you're doing,
right? So you may not know the intricacies of other practice areas. Additionally, something that's huge is if you're applying to jobs, you can look on LinkedIn, you can look on firm websites, but sometimes recruiters have access to roles that we call unposted roles. If a hiring partner wants to keep like a lower profile on a role, the recruiters will tell us, this isn't publicly posted, but if you happen to come across a candidate with XYZ credentials, please send them our way. So using a recruiter can sometimes give you opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise come across.
Right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think another question I have is, how do you help candidates weigh the risks and rewards of leaving their current role? So if you, for example, if you get a candidate, it's like, I want to leave, but I'm not sure. It's kind of on the fence. How do you talk to them?
Yeah, so I always encourage candidates to look at like the full picture and the long term.
Right.
A lot of times somebody may want to lateral for a pay bump, so to speak, right? Like, oh, I want a higher salary, or I want less billable hours, something along those lines. But I always encourage them that even though those things are definitely important, you want to look at a firm from every angle. Is it a cultural fit? If you're looking to go into like a specific industry, for example, like I think you want to go into entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Does the firm have an established entertainment practice?
Yeah.
Is it somewhere that in the future you'll be able to build a book of business, attract clients? Because it is tempting for candidates to just chase things like a higher salary or, a better work-life balance. And I'm not saying those things aren't important.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's important to look a few years down the line and see, is this a place where you see yourself being successful in your career?
Back to actually, now that you said lateraling, I guess that's a term that's used also for more senior attorneys. So can you explain why maybe recruiters don't like to work with like more junior attorneys? I guess like someone like honestly like us. I'm barely even. I was sworn in May. Like I don't even think I'm a full year yet.
Yeah,
so
you're
we're junior attorneys. We're baby attorneys.
I'm soon to be baby attorney.
Yes, soon to be, but definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's really not like a recruiter preference. Like I would absolutely love to work with either one of you guys. It's just kind of like the reality of the nature of the relationship between the firm and the recruiter.
Right.
It's just that So if you look at the reason behind a firm using a recruiter, it's kind of to streamline a whole process and to get somebody in the door quickly who's going to be able to like jump into a practice area, feet first, hit the ground running. So a lot of times it just doesn't make sense for a firm to pay a third party to go out and find that person who's still going to need a lot of training, a lot of mentoring. It's just not really like what the purpose of the recruiter
like
is.
Junior attorneys need more hand holding.
Yeah.
And more senior, you can kind of just throw them into the fire.
Yeah, they have
and
the
like get them started a
experience.
little.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you have any advice for junior attorneys, or, she just got sworn in May, like people that are
Congrats.
a year
Thank
out,
you.
are a year out maybe, that are looking for jobs? And because I know when I'm looking for jobs, I'm on LinkedIn 24/7, and it's like, you have to have 20 years of experience. And I'm like, wait a second,
And
I
then
just graduated
it starts
a year
to feel
ago.
like everything needs like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then you get in that catch-22. Like, I don't have experience, but I'm trying to get experience, but they want somebody who's
Who has
young,
the
who
experience
has all the
already.
experience.
Yeah, it's the worst. Yeah, I would say like advice for like more junior attorneys, even just going based off my own past experience. You definitely, even though it's tempting to like take a job that's right there on the table, right? Like say you've been applying and you finally get an offer, maybe the salary looks good, or maybe you think at a glance it's something you're interested in. I think it's so important to, again, just look down the barrel of the future and see like, am I going to be happy doing this for the rest of my life? And that's not to say that like you can't take a job and then retool or, change practice areas a couple of years down the line. But a lot of people try to make that seem like it's the easiest thing in the world. Like, oh yeah, you have your law license, you can practice any, in any area of the law that you choose. But I don't think people always realize the extent to which their first job really does shape the path of the rest of their career, whether that be firm caliber. For example, if you're someone in law school and you're like dead set on working in big law one day, I would say that it's probably worth holding out for the first offer you're going to get from big law. Like, it's very hard, like the further along you get in your career, to make these sorts of changes, and people don't always realize that. So for example, if you went through law school and you're like, I want to be a litigator, I'm passionate about litigation, you clerk, and then the only offer you get shortly thereafter is a transactional role, may not be the best idea to take that transactional role, because, fast forward a year when you want to make a switch again, they're going to say, well, where's your litigation experience?
Right, you've been spending that year doing transactional.
Exactly, yeah. So in a nutshell, I guess I would say think long and hard about what you want to do, and bear in mind that it's not always as easy to switch as people make it seem like it is.
Right, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of people that come out of law school, I don't know if you can agree or disagree, they're like, I have no idea what I want to do. They kind of just go into where they get a job.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just wing it from there.
They just like fell into something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just fall. And
definitely.
a lot of people like end up loving what they're doing. And they're like, I never knew like I was going to go this way. I mean, you wanted to do
that
real
happened
estate
to
for a
me.
while.
I was real estate undergrad, real estate throughout law school, and then kind of through, I guess, my Greek background and just going to networking events, like this maritime industry kept popping up. And then I'm like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And now I love it.
Yeah.
So that kind of happens too. And sometimes it's for the better.
That's pretty
I would say, at least in
niche.
my experience, it's been for the better.
Yeah. No, I could
Have you been
you've
been enjoying the maritime stuff?
Yeah, I do, honestly, because you know what? I think it combines like something that I didn't even realize I could put into the workplace, like a skill of mine, which is like I happen to speak Greek and like I'm familiar with the culture. So that actually translates to the workplace. So I think that's actually good advice, I think, for anyone who's like, think about like what your skills are, and then maybe try to open up your mindset to like, oh, hey, me, I think I want to do this, but I might actually be good at like Y instead of X.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes there can be like firm pressure too. Like you may get hired, in one particular practice area, and then a few months down the line there may be pressure, for whatever reason on the management side. The firm may have its reasons for wanting to staff certain associates elsewhere, and
Right.
of course, you want to make the firm happy. You don't want to necessarily go against the grain, but sometimes it is worth pausing. And if you feel really strongly like, no, I really want to stick with this is my passion,
Right.
don't let yourself get like forced into something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I actually have a myth or truth question
Oh, sure.
for you. I don't know, you can tell us based on what you know about obviously moving around jobs, but sometimes people say the myth is that you have to close out a year first and then make a change. I think for a lot of junior attorneys, they're like, oh, should I stay in this job for 2-3 years and then look?
Yeah.
Or is it okay if after a couple of months I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't like this. Like, I want to switch. What do legal recruiters think about that when it comes to your resume?
That's a really great question, and an important one. I would say that a lot of the times, while it is circumstantial, a year is definitely a good time frame for being in a particular role before you
Right.
seriously consider making a move. Sometimes if you're coming up on the year, if it's been like 8 months, you can start having conversations with recruiters
Right.
because the process can be months long. That's another thing people don't realize. But something that really is a red flag to a lot of firms is somebody who's, had 5 jobs in 5 years, or somebody who, was at their last 2 firms for 8 months or 6 months. Of course, life does happen, and things
Right.
do happen where, sometimes people genuinely thought something would be a fit and it turns out it wasn't. But for the most part, it's good to like establish roots in your current role. It can take up to like 6 months to a year to feel settled in a role if you really think about it to begin with.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think especially the more junior you are, the more time you want to give things to like fall into place.
Right.
Make sure you give everything a fair chance. And if you come to the conclusion after a while that really this isn't for you, then of course, it's always acceptable to lateral
Right.
after a certain amount of time.
Of course. I guess people just get that like, well, this person keeps moving. I guess you don't want to give off the impression that even though it might not have been the environment for you, it's like you don't want to show lack of commitment.
No.
Yeah, and
No, definitely not.
understandably, yeah, from the firm side too. Firms are putting a lot of resources into associates. A lot of firms really do consider the culture to be like a family.
Yeah.
So of course they're not going to want to bring somebody on, go through the whole process of training them, only for them to leave, a year later or whatever it is.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've been asked before, because when we're in law school, it's summer associate jobs, internships for the semester because you're getting credit for it.
Right.
And I've been asked kind of why I jumped from like job to job, but it wasn't really me jumping from job to job. It was, the semester ended, or
Right.
this, the summer associate
Right.
job ended.
Yeah.
Or now my judicial clerkship is over. That's a year-long contract.
Right.
I've had to explain that so many times.
Yeah, which
even
is
with the bar
surprising,
exam, it's like why did you end employment? And I'm like, oh, the contract was over because it's only a year.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that
Right,
where
exactly.
you can just explain, but now when you go into like after law school and you're going into working for a year or 2 years, it's good to stay in one spot for a little bit.
Absolutely. And yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of the times, like while people are in school, they're doing a whole bunch of things for a short period of time, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's not something to worry about as much, even though I guess like you're saying it does come up.
Yeah.
But really when you want to start to worry about it is like
Post-grad?
after that clerkship or post grad when you're in your
Right.
real first like attorney role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
First associate role. Yeah, definitely. All right, wait, let me see what else I have. I have so many questions. I'm so into this conversation right now. 'Cause I feel like I'm going through it, right? Like I've been interviewing so much. I've been applying for like the past month and a half. I knew my clerkship was ending. I've just been applying, but I'm in this weird transition
Yeah.
stage. So when I had called you, I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. I was like, I don't even know what kind of job I'm looking for
And
right
I
now.
also feel like recruiters are hacking the system right now. It's like the hack because you get stuck in that like LinkedIn, Indeed world of these job postings that you open up the jobs and it's like, 100 people applied,
Right.
200 people
Yeah,
applied.
100 people.
How are you differentiating yourself when it's just like resumes on a
Yeah.
paper? Whereas like I feel like that legal recruiter can give you that extra push and make that connection for you.
Absolutely.
No, 100%. I mean, I've seen every day, like 100 people applied, 200 people applied. I'm like,
that can be
I'm never going to make it.
intimidating.
I'm never
Yeah.
going to make it.
That
And
can
then
be intimidating.
I get discouraged a little bit, and I'm like, no, you never know. Just like apply. You never know what's going to happen. Because it only takes like one person to see your resume and like it, and then, you know, you could get an interview.
I saw on like a recent episode of Girls Gone Legal, somebody was talking about how they applied for like a job that required 5 years, and she didn't have 5 years and she got the job anyway. So
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, there's something to be said about, you can usually tell like when you're not qualified at all for a job, all right, maybe sometimes it's not the role for you,
Right.
but
yeah.
rule of thumb is like if you're a couple years outside of the required time, or if you
Right.
don't have
The
every
perfect-
single
yeah.
skill, like you really never know what somebody might see something else on your resume. Like you speak Greek, for example. Somebody who's looking to hire might say, oh, I'm Greek. They might like that. That might be the
Right.
reason why they bring you in for an interview. So
So I
always
guess
worth it.
the word to the viewers, I guess, is just put that application out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
Like,
put it out there.
Just put it out there. You never know.
You never know what's going to happen. Like I said, it could take one person. Although I will say, because I'm going through it right now, when it does say, like, you need 7 years of experience, and it's like, do not, like, all caps, do not apply unless, do not apply unless you have those 7 years, then I'm like, all right, I want to do it this
And
one.
don't lie about the 7
No.
years, because once they throw you in there,
Yeah.
that's not going to be pretty.
And if it just says
that's-
5 to 7 years, and I'm like, you know what, this is something I'm really interested in, let me just take a
Absolutely.
shot. Unless it
Absolutely.
specifically states, like, do not, whatever you do, don't apply.
Yeah.
And I'll say like that's another potential advantage of working with a recruiter, like because we are working hand in hand with the law firm, we've spoken, you know, either to the recruiting department or directly to the hiring partners.
Right.
We do tend to know when those requirements are a little bit looser, or when, you know, nope, the person who applies needs this experience to a T. And a huge part of my role is transparency, both candidate facing and when working with the firms. I will never mislead a candidate, right, who tells me they're interested in a certain role if I really think that it's not a good fit for them. Even though sometimes, you know, you don't want to tell people that, but
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
always tell them, and then, you know, I'll pivot and I'll help them identify some roles that are better suited for them, because sometimes people may be striking out too and they don't know why. Well, maybe it's because you're applying for roles that you're not qualified for necessarily. So a recruiter can also help you see some of those things that you may be missing.
Yeah.
What do you think is
Definitely.
like a resume red flag? Like what is something that you think like is common mistake that people make and you're like, oh no, this has to be changed or else you can't submit that.
Oh no, this gotta go.
This has to go. Yeah, this has to go.
So we talked about like the gaps, or I'm sorry, not the gaps, the jumps, right? Like firms use a term called job hopping, right? You don't
Right.
want to be a job hopper. You should absolutely never leave anything off of your resume. You want to be transparent, but the too many moves is one. And then sometimes just like formatting. Some people have like some crazy
Funky
text,
formats.
yeah, like huge, their
Yeah.
name and like, you know, lights basically on their resume.
Mhm.
We have like a pretty standard like form that we use. And if somebody sends us their resume and we think it could use a little bit of tweaking, we'll absolutely help them do that, send a red line copy. But yeah, for the most part, like if you just follow the standard legal resume form that your law school probably helped you
Make.
make, then
Yeah.
you should be fine.
Do you usually keep it to one page?
So for more junior associates, yeah, that's also a great question, because sometimes the more senior people get, they're like, well, I can't chop off like these really important
years.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So if you're more senior, you know, if you've been practicing, say 7+ years, I would say that 2 pages is totally fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Go
No,
ahead.
you go first.
I was just gonna say, in addition to the resumes, a lot of these jobs want cover letters, and I feel like in the world of Chat GPT, like how do you? No, it's the truth. Like
No, it's
even
true.
if people are not saying it's the truth, Chat GPT is all over the place. How do
It's
you
all over.
differentiate your cover letter when it's like people are just putting in like, oh, write this nice cover letter for X, Y, and Z. Like, what do legal recruiters think about that?
So Macmel, we always actually draft cover letters on behalf of our candidates.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
yes,
nice.
yep.
That seems a quarter of the
That's
time.
nice.
Wow.
Yes, and
Our faces.
You were wrong.
Wow, because we
those
sit
are
here typing in cover
time-consuming,
letters
yeah.
forever, and some people won't apply to a job because they don't want to write a cover letter.
Yeah.
It says put a cover letter in, but they skip that part, and that could have gotten them an interview.
right.
You know?
I think cover letters are important. I think it can be hard to do, but you also want to make sure it's not just like a copy paste of your resume, because then like what purpose
difference
is it
is it?
serving?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that ChatGPT, right? Like it's a great tool to like help you reword things, but you never want to rely solely on it. Cover letters, I do think it's a good idea to stick to a page.
Yeah.
If you can. You don't want to like bore the reader or, overstate things. So yeah, I don't know if that really like answered your question, but yeah, you also don't want it to sound like ChatGPT spit it out, right?
It starts to sound like a
want it to-
robot.
yeah. You want it to sound like you could have written it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or like, what do you think is more important to highlight, I guess, on a cover letter, or I guess what your firm would write in a cover letter? Like, are you highlighting more your personal like skills,
I
or
think
what
it's
is it?
a chance to talk about your experience more than like the few phrases that are on your resume. I think a cover letter is a great way to highlight like some of the details of some cases that you've worked on, or to talk about, maybe you've taken depositions or you couldn't like flesh certain skills out on your resume to the extent that you would have liked to. It's a good opportunity for you to highlight certain things that you otherwise couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask the crazy question, but
Right.
do people even read them? Because some people are like, oh, these cover letters, like they don't even read them.
No, I want to know, do people read writing samples? That's what I want to know.
You would have to ask like the hiring partners.
I
if-
guess so, yeah.
If they're reading
That's
them.
true.
I would say always assume people are
That they
reading
are reading
everything,
them.
right?
Rule of thumb.
Yeah. And on the subject of like the writing sample, my voice is going, I'm sorry. Always like try, like if you're applying for like a commercial lit role and
Yeah.
they say that they want like somebody with federal court experience. Like if you've had the opportunity to work on a federal case and you've substantially contributed to a brief, that might be a good idea. If you're applying for a commercial litigation role and they say they want somebody with construction experience preferred.
Right.
If you've had the opportunity to work on a construction case, and again, like you have a good memo or brief drafted, like always try to tailor the writing sample to the specific role
Right.
as much as
course.
possible. And when in doubt, just go with something that like really strongly highlights your writing as best as it can.
Another question I wanted to ask was, how do you find your candidates?
Candidates?
Because I know a lot of people like have reached out, and this is why I think this episode is so important. A lot of legal recruiters will like reach out via LinkedIn or whatever, and it's kind of just in your inbox, and I think people ignore it sometimes. I know for
Yeah.
me, sometimes I'm like, is this spam? Like, what is this? I get nervous, so
right,
I just don't
yeah.
answer. I open it and just leave it. So how do you find your candidates, and are you reaching out to them via LinkedIn and whatnot?
It's a secret. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so we definitely do a lot of LinkedIn outreach.
Right.
Additionally, we send out emails to candidates like via their firm email addresses. We have certain like databases and platforms that help us organize emails that help you filter to like certain geographic locations, certain practice groups, certain years of experience.
Right.
And essentially I'll draft up like a pitch of a role that I'm working on. I get particularly excited when it's like an unposted role or when it's like
Right.
a hot job. That's what we'll call them.
What's an example of a hot job?
A hot job, I guess, is like an unposted role is a hot job, right?
Okay.
Because it's like, you kind of have this like inside scoop on this job that nobody else has.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like an industry that's very busy at that given moment, like if M&A is like exploding and, we have this M&A role at like this top firm, we'll consider it a hot job because people are likely to respond and be interested. So a lot of LinkedIn, a lot of emailing, and a lot of like word of mouth. Like if I've placed somebody, and they've enjoyed working with me, like the hope is if years down the line they want to move again, they'll come back to us. Or if they have a friend that wants to move, they'll say, Irene helped me out and it was a great experience. Here's her number.
I was actually going to say on LinkedIn, I didn't know that my friends were talking about this feature, and you obviously know this because that's how you find some candidates, but LinkedIn has a feature where you can put open to work, and people won't see that except for recruiters, which is really important because some people don't want everyone to know that they're looking for a job, like their current employer, or maybe if there's a problem or something.
It's funny you say that because on my LinkedIn, I wanted to click open to work while I'm looking for jobs, but I didn't want it to be like broadcasted out there. So I wasn't sure, but it's only...
It's in your settings preference, right? Like you can make it set that it will only show to recruiters that you're open to work. So not that picture on your profile.
Is this like open to work around it?
No, not that.
Imagine like your boss sees that you're open to work.
Yeah, right? Like that wouldn't
be
go
mortified.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would not go good. Like, yeah, you're open to work.
Yeah.
What about here?
Yeah, you're working here. That's funny. I'll have to look into that. Because I thought about like clicking that because I'm connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I'm sure if I, post something, but I'm like, I don't want to broadcast it out there. That's why it's a legal recruiter is good to work with too. Because you guys will connect with people.
And then you allow the legal recruiters to know, like, hey, click on my profile.
I'd absolutely be like more inclined to message someone who I know is actively looking.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think we could do some rapid fire round questions.
Yeah.
We could just go back and forth. Like I'll ask one and you ask one.
Okay.
So what's the biggest myth about legal recruiting?
Biggest myth. I would say a lot of people may think that all we do is like send resumes around, but in reality, we're kind of like career advisors. We help you do so much more. We help you revise your resume so that it's in its best shape, and we encourage you to look at so many factors when picking a role, including cultural fit, long-term goals, work-life balance, and we do have like insider industry knowledge. I think a lot of people may not realize the extent to which we're involved in the hiring process.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people too are probably just like, oh, I can do it on my own. I don't need like a legal recruiter.
Yeah, like I can send my resume, but that's actually not what it is at all. Yeah,
it's not. It's more beneficial to have somebody, like I said earlier in the episode, on your team supporting you, helping you tailor your resume, helping you write your cover letters, insider information, like
it's
stuff
like
that.
It's like real estate. Like you could find a house on your own, or would you rather have the expert
tell you all about it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't
just
even
save
want to
you
think
the
about
hassle.
that. Finding a house and going through that process on my own. I can't imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I guess another thing is, what is the most underrated skill in a candidate?
Most underrated skill in a candidate is adaptability, because a lot of times, even if like you're an associate at a firm in a certain practice group, like you never know when you're going to be staffed on another matter.
Right.
So if you're somebody who's a quick learner, somebody who's willing to roll with the punches, and somebody who is willing to work to learn skills that you may not have at this given time, I think that's a huge selling point of an associate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
All right, next one is one thing law school doesn't prepare you for. So this can be general.
Yeah. Does law school really prepare you for anything in the working world? Yeah, no. I feel like in law school, you definitely learn the skills that you need, at least as like a litigator. Like I remember when I was at a firm and, I was staffed on something transactional, I'd be like, wow, like I actually never in law school like went through a contract, or I never like drafted a provision. You definitely do like brief writing and research and that sort of thing. I feel like it also really doesn't prepare you for like the business side of things. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys, but in school, I never talked about like billing hours or like how to efficiently do it or what the client's going to see on the bill.
Right.
So I feel like there's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you don't learn in law school. You learn how to like read a case, interpret law, write a brief, and that's really it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think real world experience is so important. And that's why I loved my internships
Right.
in law school, because I felt like I was getting the most experience there. Obviously, you're learning in school, you're writing memos, you're writing briefs, learning new things in class, but billable hours, I did that for my first time as a summer associate when I had met you, and I've never learned that before in my life. And I was happy I was able to do it during my time in law school, during the summer, during that job. But,
Right.
we didn't have a class on that.
Well, actually, one of my mentors was saying that to me the other day in the office. He was like, practice is not, you might have learned skills in law school, but practice is not like a bar exam question.
Right.
Like, what if your client's out of the country? That usually does not happen in a bar exam question. Like, that's your picture perfect world, which life, you just have to roll with the punches
Or
and
you
learn
have
as
30
you go.
minutes to do it.
Yeah, or
Here's
the
an entire
client
fact pattern.
wants
You got
it
30
now.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you have to have everything memorized, right? Like when in practice, like you always have Westlaw like available
Lexis.
to
Yeah.
It's funny. It's very different.
Yeah.
What is something that makes you not want to work with a candidate?
Ooh, I like that question.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't really encountered anybody yet that I'm like, I definitely don't want to work with you.
Right.
But something that can make my job a little bit more difficult is lack of response from candidates. And, I don't mean that candidates need to like answer immediately or whatever, but
Yeah.
if I'm waiting on a green light from somebody for me to submit their resume, and a month goes by and I haven't heard back from them yet regarding whether they do in fact want me to
Right.
submit them. I mean, by then the role could be filled. So
Yeah.
I would say that something that I enjoy is a responsive
Mhm.
candidate and somebody who I feel like is engaged in the process.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's definitely valid. I know my brother, he's an accountant. He just switched over jobs and he used not a legal recruiter, a recruiter though.
A recruiter.
But you guys, it's also called the recruiter. Is it a job? Headhunter.
Headhunter,
A
yeah.
headhunter, yeah.
Because my mom was like, "Oh yeah, he's been using a headhunter," and I was like, "What is that?" I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Do they call legal recruiters headhunters as well?
I think they're very similar, but I think a headhunter is somebody who targets like specific people.
Gotcha. Okay.
Probably like more senior level people rather than
Yeah.
anybody, looking for any associate who's interested in the role.
Yeah, well, he had a really good experience, and now he's in his job, and he's extremely happy. So
Awesome.
I was like, all right, maybe I should start. And that's when I called Irene, and I was like, Irene, I need help over here. I don't even know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And that's why legal recruiters are so important.
Yeah.
All right, last rapid fire round question, and then we will let you go. Coffee or wine after a long day of recruiting?
It's a fun one. Before, definitely coffee. After wine. Otherwise, I will be up all night.
Yeah.
So,
What are your hours usually? Are you just like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. all day?
My team is awesome and lets me start around 9:30 because
Oh,
I am
that's
not a morning person by any stretch of the word. But and then typically we wrap up around 5. But there's a lot of flexibility. So if I have a candidate who wants to talk at 7 p.m. and I'm available, I'll talk to them after hours. But pretty loose.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed this episode. Sophia, I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. No, we're so happy to have you. And
Thank you,
I think
guys.
this is such an important episode. So audience, please watch this whole thing. If you're interested in legal recruiting, as a job or just working with the legal recruiter, please either reach out to Irene at Macmel. We can link her. You want us to link your LinkedIn?
Yeah, my LinkedIn would be great.
Your
Yep.
LinkedIn. And you can reach out to her. She can help you. I think this is something that everyone should look into, especially if you're interviewing right now for jobs.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was great.
Of course. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching the first episode of season 3. We hope you enjoyed. We have a lot of more guests coming on this season. So stay tuned and follow us on all our socials, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Spotify, YouTube. Connect with us, reach out to us. We want to hear your opinions, your thoughts. Katie will be back next time. And Sophia will be back for another episode, though. So stay tuned with Sophia. She will be here. In the meantime, stay sharp, stay stylish, and stay legal. Bye, guys.